Hello, everyone. My name is Professor Mariana Pantic. This is MCA 115 News Reporting. Today's lecture is going to be about visual journalism. So, this type of journalism is becoming more and more prominent in today's news media environment. The reason for that is not only we focus on words to tell a story, but we also try to utilize comprehensive type of reporting that will allow us to include or incorporate in our reports not just text, but also diverse multimedia elements such as videos, photographs, graphs as well. All of them represent visual journalism. Let's take a look at the development of visual journalism. Visual journalism, it all started with hand-drawn engravings, cave paintings, by ancient humans were early attempt of visual communication, not visual journalism, but early attempts of visual communication. Then visual communication grew more powerful in conveying messages with the invention of photography. After the photography, visual communication further developed with introduction of movies, television, and of course the internet. Today what we are witnessing is definitely an increased demand for visual journalism. The reason for that is more and more people are getting news online, and much of the content we interact with online includes visual elements such as video and photographs. Or if you look at social media and what what ordinary people, but also news organizations post their different types of videos. They post reels, they post stories, they post photo galleries, and so on. All of them represent visual journalism. Now, let's take a look at the history of photography and how it has developed. Modern photography was introduced commercially in 1839 with the invention of the daguerreotype. After this invention, the next step was to develop the medium that would produce moving images. So a few decades later, Thomas Edison invented the first motion picture camera, and the camera was then improved by the French brothers Auguste and Louis Lumiere. If you want to see some of these cameras invented by the French brothers, there is a museum of moving images in New York City, and I highly recommend going to that museum to see the history of photography and film, actually, not photography. So the modern motion picture industry was born at the end of the 19th century after the invention of the first motion picture camera. And when did we have the introduction of radio? Do you remember that from other lectures that we have covered? Not in this class, but I'm pretty sure we talked in other journalism classes about it. It was in 1920s, and then after the invention of radio, but radio is not a visual form of radio does not represent visual journalism. I'm just mentioning it. Like, so the next step after that was inventing television, and in the 1960s, the British Broadcasting Corporation started transmitting the first public television service from London using the electromechanical system. So television developed and spread in the 50s and in the 60s. Now, let's start with photography. So we talked about the invention of photography in 1839. So let's take a look at some of the basics regarding photography. Now everyone can take pictures, and it appears as it is so easy. We have so many filters, we have so many options, we have great phones with excellent cameras that allow us to take pictures, which is why like decades ago, a journalist, if they cover an event or a press conference, they would simply go there with a photographer. So a photographer would take pictures while a journalist working for, let's say, a local newspaper would write a story about it. But that has changed a lot because now, considering the journalists are equipped with great photo cameras on their phones, they tend to take videos or pictures of events they're witnessing. Of course, when it comes to big events, important events, you will also see photojournalists, photographers present at that event taking pictures because there is still, regardless of all these advancements in technology that we now have, there is still the need for a professional photography. Pictures are also, or photographs are also called still images. They can dramatize or emphasize specific parts of a story, or they can tell the entire story. Images have the power to convey information. What are some of the things that need to be present in the picture for us to consider publishing it in a newspaper or online, simply using it to supplement our story? It needs to portray drama, action, relationship, unusualness, and expression. So frequently, when you see images from, let's say, Gaza, you find all the atrocities portrayed in those still images. You will see relationships like people trying to take care of one another after witnessing or after losing mm, important members of their community. So you will find, I'm trying to explain this best because every time I start talking about Gaza, I get upset. So you will find different images portraying all the tragedies that those people are experiencing. So aside from portraying like unusualness or drama, they also need to portray, photographs also need to portray people's emotions. And when it comes to, let me give you some examples because I initially had a couple of photographs, but I couldn't include them in this lecture due to copyrights. So we will just go over them in class. I will open a couple of websites and then we can look at like how different images portray different things. So if we're looking at action, for example, and a good example of that would be um, a football game, or a good example would be a police chase or something like that. Relationship, we can find that in different types of stories, from politics to entertainment and so on. Now, let's take a look at some of the basic things, and I will ask you when we meet on campus to do an exercise, and then you need to keep in mind these couple of things when shooting pictures, like how do we make good images? What is that we need to do? First of all, remember that shooting pictures in bright sunlight can be very problematic. You have experienced this before. You take a picture and then you don't see that person in the picture because it's too dark. Well, the thing is that if you see the sun on your subject's face, it can cast shadows. So if the sunlight is behind them, they can be thrown into shadows. So if you don't really see them clearly, if it looks like they're just dark figures on your images, that means that the sunlight is behind them. Keep this in mind and shoot photographs with the sun behind you, not the object, but behind you. If taking a portrait photo, look for a bit of shade so the subject doesn't get bothered by the sunlight. For your stories, like think about shooting different types of images and see later what you can use. Shoot both horizontal and vertical images and shoot action. Photograph people when they are doing something, be careful about the background. If there is something distracting, just like imagine if I had a big plant behind me, you would be looking at the plant, you wouldn't be looking at me. So this is why I blurred the background, so you're not distracted by other things that are happening around me, so you can focus on me and this lecture. The same thing happens with photography. What do you want to do? You don't want to have something distracting in the background, so people focus on that instead of the object of your photograph. What are digital images? Digital images are images that we take today. Digital pictures we can take and edit with our cameras. They're divided into millions of pixels, which present tiny pinpoints of information of the scene of the person you have captured. A megapixel is a million pixels. In mm, there are three most common types of digital images, and what is it that we frequently use? What do you think? Which one of these are we most likely to use in journalism? In online, when it comes to online news platform, we are very likely to use JPEG. But three common types of digital images are TIFF, often used away from the web when high quality pictures are needed. They can be used in newspapers. And JPEG is best for photographs because it produces small file sizes. So that's why we're likely to use this for online news media. And then there are GIFs, most often used for graphics such as tables and charts. I wanted to introduce you to this example of a photography. I was able to incorporate that one in my lecture. It is the vulture and the little girl. I'm sure that some of you have seen this photograph already. The original title of the image was Struggling Girl. The photo was taken in 1993 in Sudan, and the photographer who took this photograph was Kevin Carter. This photo has, of course, as expected, this photo is very controversial. And there was a debate after that whether the New York Times should have published it or not. So I want you to take a look at it, and I want you to read more about how this photograph was published and what was the reaction, the main reaction after people saw it in newspapers. I want you to go to the discussion board and read more, get acquainted with this photograph that was in 1994. Carter actually won the Pulitzer Prize, but after that he committed suicide. So I want you to go and read the full story about this photograph, and then you will uh, post an essay in the discussion after you read the story. I just asked like a couple of questions that you need to address, so you will find it in classes. Now, let's go to visual journalism online. How do we tell stories? Like, what kind of elements do we use? The internet has definitely contributed to more powerful storytelling because we can use so many visual elements to make our reporting more comprehensive. We can add images, we can add photographs, we can add interactive graphs, for instance, or we can also embed content from social media platforms, add hyperlinks to make our stories more transparent, to let our audience know, our readers know, how is it that we know what we know, that we know what we claim in those reports. Without images, without videos, without these visual elements, online news stories will look boring. So digital production allow us to create a lot of different visual elements, and we create them depending on the event that we're covering. So if we're talking about something that is related to economy, it is important especially when we deal with a lot of numbers, it is important to have some graphs that illustrate what we're talking about. Maps are important, especially you notice like when Russian invasion on Ukraine started, and then a lot of people were confused about where is it specifically going on and how. And then you go to a website that covers a story, and then you see a map that illustrates exactly like where the Russian troops were at the moment they invaded Ukraine, which regions of Ukraine were affected, and so on. This is really important because then again, depending on what type of story you're covering, you can add additional elements. You won't necessarily always need to add videos, but like if there is, let's say, this reason in January there was a terrorist attack in New Orleans. A lot of images, a lot of footages came from that event, and it's I believe that whoever goes to your site to read that story, they expect videos portraying the car that was like the man who was driving that car at an insane speed. And I remember there was one video showing how people were just trying to, like, they were running from the streets, like, because they saw a man driving a car at a crazy, like, high speed. And because of that, they were running away from the streets. And the moment when the camera captured that was actually really portrayed how horrifying that event was. And your reader, when they go to the website, your reader would expect of you to have some videos so they can actually see what happened there. Of course, and just remember, when there are sensitive things, you need to make sure to label them because not everyone wants to see those videos. I remember I'm very sensitive to to these things. So, for example, there were certain things that I saw after the terrorist attack in New Orleans that I I felt like I really didn't want to see them on television, but then again, they said that, the images that they were portraying would be disturbing to some viewers, and I think that you should add this label to a trigger warning to your online content when you're portraying such things. So, what are some of the potential issues with images online? As you know, a lot of AI is being used, so keep that in mind. Like if you feel that they're interesting images that somebody posted on Twitter or Facebook, and you want to just get them and include them in your story because it will contribute to that story, just make sure to ask the person first about the image, and make sure that the image has not been AI generated. This is something that can happen really easily. Why? Because more and more people are using AI, and AI is becoming more and more sophisticated. So it is frequently difficult to distinguish between images produced by real people and images produced by artificial intelligence. So there are definitely ethical problems that emerge due to the manipulation of digital photography, and you should keep that in mind. Now, there are a couple of things that are also interesting for your reports that you might use online, and I provided these examples. We can go through them when we meet in person. There are picture galleries, which is a picture gallery is like a sequence of picture, and I provided an exact example, 15 food you should never eat. So it's kind of when you want to have, it doesn't always need to be related to entertainment. It can be related to other things. I remember when when I was a journalist, we even used picture galleries for obituaries. How? Like if you find like a historical individual and you feel like they really deserve they so if you find like a historical figure and you feel like you want to emphasize 10 things or 15 things or 20 things that they've done um, while they were politically active, then you can literally create a picture gallery and portray them in different situations and then explain each activity portrayed in that picture to your readers. So it's not only like a picture gallery doesn't always need to portray something soft and entertaining, but it can also portray more like hard news stories, basically. Another Another type of a picture gallery slideshow is like a, let's say, like a combination of multiple pictures is a slideshow. So when you open a picture gallery, you usually need to either click or scroll down to like see all the images and then to like see the description for each image. Well, when it comes to a slideshow, it's basically automated. The images follow each other automatically. So you can just simply start a slideshow and literally like sit and watch as images just follow one another with content. So that is a slideshow. It's more, I would say that they were more popular before everybody started getting their iPhones or smartphones with good cameras. So more, I think at this time, videos are definitely more popular, especially because people can record them live. But big photographs are still represent an incredibly invaluable element of journalism. And these formats that I just introduced you to, picture galleries and slideshows, are still present in online news. Another term that I wanted to introduce you to is a cut line. What is a cut line? You see this in newspapers, but you see also this in online media. So it's basically a descriptive copy that accompanies pictures. So if you see an image online and then there's like a brief description under that image because you want to know who took the picture, or even if you don't want to know that, you want to know what the image is about, where the picture was taken, and so on. And that is usually under the image. Cut lines range widely in style and length, from the one-line identifier to the full storyline. So they can run just one line, which is, I believe, the most common thing that you will see, but cut lines can also can also have several sentences. They tell a story, which is in the picture. And I talked about this rule, the rule of thirds. It is great that now when we take a picture and our smartphones allow us to see these lines. Why are these lines important? Imagine that you're breaking an image down into thirds, so you have 9 parts, and your subject should not be in the center, but your subject should be with the lines and their intersection points. This is simply because it's pleasing for the eye. So when it's set this way, you're simply better focused on the subject. So those were like a couple of basic things that I wanted to cover with respect to photography. Of course, you need to take photography classes to learn more about it, but the reason why I'm covering this, the reason why I'm talking about visual journalism, is because in online media, you need to be aware of all of these elements that you can use to tell a better story. So there are cases, if we even go back and think about picture galleries, like there are cases such as where picture galleries could work better than videos. For example, my I like it better to see Macy's Thanksgiving parade in the form of a picture gallery than to watch videos of it. The reason for that is because I see like different sections of the parade when I watch picture galleries, so I don't need to take more time to watch all these videos, so I can focus on images that I like best. Now, let's talk a little bit about videos and what kind of videos we can incorporate in our reports. Videos are moving images. The simplest video you can incorporate in your online report could be, or in your TV report, could be a clip from a CCTV camera. So this is something that you can get and add. And frequently when it comes to the violent crime, frequently we rely on CCTV cameras for images. It happens also that other people are present when a crime occurs or a terrorist attack occurs, so they take images, they take pictures, they take videos of it. But for most crimes, it is the first thing that we are looking into is a CCTV camera. Such a clip is often called a text plus report because it is a video of a text report. There are three approaches in journalism for using videos to use for video story content. We can deal with breaking news videos. So when something happens, reporters rush to the scene to report what they see. Can we also see citizens creating breaking news videos? Absolutely, because as I mentioned, when something happens, reporters rushes to get as much information as possible about that event. But then if there was a citizen who took a video before the reporter, then the citizen created a breaking news video, and we can ask them if we can use that breaking news video for our report. There are highlight videos. What is that? It is basically a short video clip, sometimes not longer than 20 seconds. They can be used to explain complex elements or emphasize dramatic moments of a story. So when I mentioned that example of a truck like just going through the crowds in New Orleans for New Year's, and people running away trying to find shelter, you can use highlight videos in your story to emphasize that specific moment that shows how fast the car was going. Documentary style video is the longest of the three types of video content. It's often 5 or more minutes in length, and you can see them. I usually watch documentary style videos on weekends when I have more time. So it's really, it's a longer form of videos that we can see in news media. When it comes to, so we talked a little bit about how to take good photographs, but what do we do when it comes to creating videos? What do we do when we interview people with the camera? What are some things that we should keep in mind? First of all, it is important if you're interviewing another individual to set your camera recording for 5 to 10 seconds before you begin the action. That gives you some empty tape to edit out. Keep quiet as you film. You don't want your interview to look straight at the camera, so set the camera just to one side of you so that when the interview talks, they look across the camera at you. Panning, when like you see, let's say, a report from a press conference, and then you hear reporter's voice in the background, but the camera is like just walking around and the video, and all of a sudden you see all these images of the people who are present in that conference room. That is called panning. So panning is when camera moves across the scene, and then you can, as you speak as a reporter, you can use these moving images as background. So we will, again, like take a look at some examples in class. Keep in mind that it is important to be relaxed. The tone of your voice matters. Restrict your sentences to 20 words on average. And it is usually 150 to 180 words per minute. So keep this in mind when writing a script. And we're almost done. This is our final lecture for this semester. And we talked about visual journalism. Visual journalism is basically depicted in photographs and videos. Photography was developed in 1830s. Thomas Edison invented the first motion picture camera in 1891. Again, if you want to learn more about old cameras, just go to the Museum of Moving Images in New York. It's an interesting place to see. Images are important in journalism because they have the power to convey information, but they also provide some form of evidence for what we are talking about. So this has just happened. See the image of it. What I'm saying is true. So they also, in a way, verify all the information that we are delivering to our audiences, viewers, readers, and listeners. Most common types of digital images are TIFF, JPEG, and GIF. Rule of thirds is important, so we want to make sure that the subject is there along those lines, not in the center of a photography, because this is more pleasing for the eye. It's more aesthetic. Videos are also called moving images, while photographs are called still images. Some of the approaches in journalism to using videos include breaking news videos, highlight videos, so breaking news. When something happened and we report on it, highlight videos, about 20 seconds long, and documentary style videos that are 5 minutes or longer. So these are my references for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed my video lectures this semester, and I hope you have also enjoyed my in-person classes. Thank you again, and have a great day.